Before we get started, please recite Surah Fatiha for your marhumin and for the marhumin of all of those individuals who do not have anyone to recite Surah Fatiha on their behalf. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. اللهم اغفرهم وارحمهم واسكنهم وجوار محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يوصي نعمه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدركه بهد الهمم ولا يناله غوث الفتن الذي ليس لصفته حد محدود ولا نات موجود ولا وقت محدود ولا أجل ممدود فترى الخلائق بقدرته ونشر الرياح برحمته ووتد بالصخور ميدان أرض ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وحبيبنا وحبيب رب العالمين بالقاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعن على أدائهم أجمعين من أول يوم ظلمهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد فقال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المبين وقوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولا تركنوا إلى الذين ظلموا فتمسكم النار وما لكم من دون الله من أولياء ثم لا تنصرون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Before we begin, I first would like to thank everyone for attending these lectures. I'd like to thank the management for inviting me to do these lectures in the month of Muharram, because this is a service to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, and it's my personal opinion that wherever these zakireen go, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam has chosen them to go to these specific places because there might be something that these places needs from this person. So I thank everyone here for attending these lectures, and inshallah you benefited from these lectures just as much as I benefited in researching about these lectures. And inshallah this won't be the last time we all meet, whether here, whether in Karbala, whether in the afterlife, we will meet somewhere inshallah. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The time when a child is in the process of adopting some sort of way of life is that time period where the parents have to be very determined about how they want this child to grow up. Because there's a difference between educating a child and tarbiyat. There's a difference between just educating a child and giving this child a personality or molding this individual into a person that not just the society, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would be proud of. Because at the end of the day, we are not working for the society. Our end goal is not so the society could praise us. Our end goal is so that the Imam of our time could praise us. Our end goal is so that on the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells everyone that this is how I wanted one of my servants to be. So when it comes to children, the parents have a huge responsibility on their shoulders. And when it comes to children, one of the things that the Prophet ﷺ, one of the things that Amir al-Mu'mineen ﷺ, one of the things that all of the Aimah ﷺ talk about is not just an education for a child. Yes, it's wajib that the child be given a good education. But the Holy Prophet tells what? One of the wajibat for the parents is that they instill good morals in this child. Good morals. They can read about morals. They can read about morals in books. But when it comes to practicing, where are they going to look? The first place that they're going to look is within the house. Meaning what? Meaning they're going to look at their parents. Whatever morals their parents exhibit, those are the morals that they're going to first start showing. Meaning what? Meaning that if the parents, they get angry really quickly, the child is going to learn You know what? My parents, they get angry. They started exhibiting those. If, for example, the mother doesn't wear hijab, then what's the daughter going to do? My mother doesn't wear hijab, so I don't need to wear hijab. If the father, for example, looks at non-mahram, what's the child going to do? You know what? My father is a Muslim. If he's doing that, then it's going to be okay for me to do. This is the problem living in the West. One of the problems is that there aren't enough Islamic sources when it comes to raising children. Yes, you have a lot of Western sources. You have a lot of un-Islamic sources. And when you read those sources only talk about how to raise a child that will be a benefit for the world. When you read those sources tell you about how to raise a child that will be good for this materialistic world. But when it comes to the Islamic lifestyle, Islam does not only look at the child and say, you know what, as long as the child has these materialistic goods, they're fine. No. Islam says that that child needs to be raised, that child needs to be taken care of holistically. And when we talk about holistically, we're talking about the mind, the body, and the spirit all together. The parents need to be mindful of the child's education, which is the mind. Where are you going to get that? In school. Correct? The parents need to be mindful of the body, meaning what? Meaning that they have the food, the nutrients that's required for the child to grow. Meaning what? Meaning that they have some sort of dwelling, some sort of house where the child feels safe. The Western books will give you these two. But when it comes to the spirit, you don't have a lot of books in the West that talk about how to raise a child from the spiritual aspect. And the problem with Muslims living in the West is that there aren't a lot of Islamic books that talk about how to raise a child from this spiritual aspect, how to raise the child spiritually. When it comes to how to raise a moralistic child, we don't have a lot of books. If you look at Karbala, you have two individuals. You have Yazid Lantullah on one side, you have Abu Abdullah al-Hussein on one side. Complete opposites. Complete opposites. The way Yazid was raised was what? Just a materialistic life. A materialistic life. The way Abu Abdullah al-Hussein was raised, Islamic life. Islamic life. This is the reason. Why does Imam Hussein say, he doesn't say that I am not going to pledge allegiance to Yazid. No, he doesn't say that. He says that a man like me would never or will never pay allegiance to a man like Yazid. So what is Imam Hussein, what is Abu Abdullah telling us? That anyone that has these characteristics that I have will never pledge allegiance to anyone that has the characteristics that Yazid has. That's what Imam Hussein is saying in that sentence. If you take me to be an imam, if you have these characteristics that I have, you would never pledge allegiance to anyone, not just Yazid, but anyone. This is until the end of time, not just for the time of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Look at how Yazid was raised, look at how Imam Hussein was raised. And then you can come to the conclusion yourself that 1400 years after these individuals, there's one individual who's constantly being said, alayhi salam. There's another individual who's constantly being said, lanatullah alayhi. Meaning what? Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, 1400 years later, Muslims are saying what? Peace be upon him. 1400 years after Yazid went to hell, Muslims are saying what? May the curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be on him. Why was that? It was because of the lifestyle. The lifestyle. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, yes, raised in the house of Nabuwat, raised in the house of Imamat. So he was given that lifestyle of Islam, correct? What was Yazid missing that he didn't have? Look at Yazid's life and look at his son, Muawiyah ibn Yazid. Muawiyah ibn Yazid, right after Yazid died, Banu Umayyah, they made him Khalifa. For a few months he was Khalifa. He's the one, if you look at the sermon he recited, he's the one who said, in defense of the Ahlul Bayt, my grandfather he rose up against the rightful successor of the Holy Prophet. Meaning what? Muawiyah rose up against the rightful successor of the Holy Prophet. And my father Yazid, everyone knows exactly what type of individual he was. And what he did to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam was an atrocious act. Who? Muawiyah ibn Yazid. Muawiyah the son of Yazid. What type of lifestyle did he have? He was given that Islamic lifestyle. The mother that raised Muawiyah ibn Yazid, she gave him an Islamic lifestyle. She told him about who the Ahlul Bayt were. That's why he gave up his khilafat. And because he was defending the Ahlul Bayt, they say that he was poisoned. Who came after Muawiyah ibn Yazid? Marwan ibn Hakam. Marwan. Why? Because he was defending the Ahlul Bayt. Why was he defending? He's the son of Yazid, the one who slaughtered all the innocents in Karbala, the one who killed Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. He's the son of that individual. Yet he's defending the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. He's defending the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Why? Because he had an Islamic upbringing. The mother made sure he knew who the Ahlul Bayt were. He knew who the Ahlul Bayt were. When it came to Yazid, he didn't care. The mother didn't emphasize about the Ahlul Bayt. The father didn't emphasize about the Ahlul Bayt. They were constantly at war with the Ahlul Bayt. But when it came to the mother of Muawiyah ibn Yazid, no. The narration state there was a point in time when she was a servant of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. A servant of the Ahlul Bayt. This is what an education, Islamic education, can do to you. Even if you are raised in an Islamic house, if you have an Islamic education, you can still turn out to be like these individuals. You look at Yazid, he ruled for about 3 years. 3 years, that's it. In those 3 years, the atrocities that he committed against Islam, against the Muslims, against Islam and against the Muslims, the heinous acts that he committed, the Battle of Harra, for example, what happened in that battle? Yazid, he sent, some narrations, they say 70,000 soldiers from Sham to where? Medina. Why? Because there were still people in Medina that did not, in Medina, Makkah, there were people there that did not pay allegiance to Yazid. They didn't want him to be Khalifa because they knew exactly what type of individual he was. One of the misconceptions that a lot of Shias have is that Yazid, he just came into power because Muawiyah said that he was going to be the next in line. That's not true. That's not true. Muawiyah, he spent almost 7 to 10 years trying to get people to pledge allegiance to Yazid. Trying to get the companions of the Holy Prophet to say yes, after he passes away, that they will pledge allegiance to Yazid. What would he do? He would either bribe them or he would kill them. He would kill them. Look at what history books say about how Aisha died. How Aisha died. A lot of Sunnis, they say, or they think that Aisha, she died natural causes. No, she did not die natural causes. She did not die natural causes. Sunni historical sources themselves, they say that she was one of those individuals who didn't want to pay allegiance to Yazid. Some of them. But she had a falling out between her and Muawiyah. And what would she do? She would tell the people the same thing that she would say about Usman. Muawiyah had enough, and those narrations, they say that he invited her for dinner one time. He had already dug a hole. He invited her for dinner, and in that hole, what he ended up doing was he had swords stuck into them. And he covered that hole up, and he put a chair over it. He invited her for dinner. As soon as she sat on that chair, she fell in that hole. She fell in that hole. Who was the one who killed her? Muawiyah. Who was the one that did all of that? Muawiyah. Some of that, the narrations, it was Marwan ibn Hakam by the orders of Muawiyah. At the end of the day, it goes back to who? It goes back to Muawiyah. Why? According to some narrations, because she didn't want to pledge allegiance to Yazid. She was outspoken about that. And they asked her, if you die, where do you want to be buried? And what did she say? This is her. She herself, she says, look, I would have loved to be buried next to the Prophet. But after he passed away, I brought so many innovations into the religion, I can't face him. So bury me in Al-Baqi. She herself is claiming, she herself says that I brought in innovations into the religion of Islam. When she's saying she brought in innovations into the religion of Islam, how can us 1400 years later take everything that she says to be completely truthful? It's very difficult. But Yazid didn't just come into power all of a sudden. No, 7 years. 7 years Muawiyah was trying to get everyone to pledge allegiance to Yazid. But why was he trying to get people to pledge allegiance to Yazid when he came into power? He had already signed the peace agreement with Imam Hassan alayhi salam. And all the narrators, they say that, hey, one of the conditions that Imam Hassan alayhi salam put was that if he was to die, the Khilafat would go to him. The Khilafat would go to him and then to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. That was a condition already. The fact that he's trying to get people to pledge allegiance to Yazid tells you that Muawiyah never intended to hold on to that treaty. He never intended to. And you see that that's exactly what happened. When Yazid comes into power, the most atrocious act, the most heinous crime of his was the shahadat of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. That's absolutely true. That alone is enough for him to be kafir. That alone is enough for him to be kafir. But when you ask the majority of Muslims, they say, you know what, no, that's going too far. They don't give as much reverence to Imam Hussein alayhi salam as we do. Correct? But was that his only crime? No, that wasn't his only crime. The Battle of Harra, like I said, 70,000, according to some, 70,000 soldiers from Syria. They go where? Medina. They go to Medina. And what have they been ordered? They've been told that Medina is mubah for you. What does mubah mean in Islamic terminology? Mubah, it means permissible. Permissible. Medina is mubah for you. For 3 whole days, it's mubah for you. And the crimes that were committed there, thousands of companions of the Holy Prophet, tens of thousands, taken into slavery, made into slaves. Thousands of women being raped. By who? Muslims. Why? Because allegiance was not paid to Yazid. Allegiance was not paid to Yazid. Did Muawiyah ever rule like this? No. Amir al-Mu'mineen? No. Uthman? No. Umar? No. Abu Bakr? No. The Holy Prophet? No. None of them ruled the way Yazid was ruling. Aisha even asked Muawiyah, when he was asking for bayat for Yazid, she asked him, whose rule, according to whose rules are you making your son the Khalifa? Did any of the 2 sheikhs, this is what she said, did any of the sheikhs before you do this? She doesn't say that the Holy Prophet wants to do this. No, she asked, did the 2 sheikhs do this before you? Doesn't even ask about Amir al-Mu'mineen. And he says, no, they didn't. And the narration says that because she said this, she brought the 2 sheikhs, meaning Abu Bakr and Umar. When he said, no, they didn't, then he was embarrassed. And because of that, he got angry. She said this in front of everyone. In front of everyone. That's when he made the plan to have her killed. But whatever the case is, Battle of Harra, Medina has been mubah. 3 days. After Medina, where does the army go? They go towards Mecca. What did they end up doing in Mecca? Abdullah ibn Zubair, he was in Mecca. He hadn't paid allegiance to him. And he was never going to, because he felt that he was the rightful Khalifa. Why? Because he's coming from a closer companion of the Holy Prophet. He's coming from Zubair, correct? He never paid allegiance. What did the army of Yazid do in Mecca? That was the first time in history where Muslims, they burnt down the Kaaba. They burned down the Kaaba. You don't take Abu Abdullah Hussein al-Islam, you don't give him the same amount of sanctity that we give him. No problem. But the majority of Muslims, they do believe that the Kaaba is sanctified. They do give the Kaaba sanctity. This act alone, this act for them should have been enough for them to say, you know what, now he's gone out of the bounds. He's kafir. Nope. No. You still have Muslims today. They know that he's done all this. Shahadat of Imam Hussein al-Islam, Battle of Harra, burning the Kaaba. They know it's because of him all this happened. No, he's still a Muslim. He's still a Muslim. To the point where now you have Wahhabi ideology that's coming into mainstream Sunni Islam, telling them, you know what? When it came to the Battle of Karbala, it was Hussein who was wrong. Na'uzubillah. Hussein, he should have pledged allegiance to Yazid. This is coming into mainstream Sunni Islam now. Think about what type of individual Hussein was, and think about what type of individual Yazid was. When these types of thoughts start coming into Islam, that's when you have this confusion amongst the Muslims of whether or not Yazid, he was righteous or no. Everything that is being set against him is just made up by the Sunni or made up by the Shias. And when you look at history books, and once again I say this again, history books, majority of them, history books, they're Sunni writers. They're not Shia writers. Sunni writers. When they themselves say in their books about the atrocity of Yazid, why aren't they being taken seriously? When Imam Hussein al-Islam's camp came to Karbala, or from Karbala when they came to Sham, what was it that Yazid said? When the head of Abu Abdullah Hussein al-Islam came, the narrations, they state that he took a stick and he was beating at the teeth of Abu Abdullah Hussein al-Islam. He was striking at the teeth of Abu Abdullah Hussein al-Islam. And what was it that he said? He said that the Banu Hashim, they just played a game for government. They just played a game for rulership. There is no God, there is no Wahi, there is no prophethood. It was just for rulership. These are in Sunni books. When he doesn't even believe in afterlife, when he doesn't even believe in prophethood, when he doesn't even believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that tells you what? That he's completely become a kafir. A kafir. What does the Quran, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? Forget kafir. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say about taking non-believers or taking the people of the book as your leaders? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly says in the Quran, do not take the people of the book to be your leaders. That's for people of the book, let alone mushrik, let alone a kafir. When the books themselves are saying that this individual, when he himself is talking in such a way that proves his kufr, then it shouldn't be a problem for me to say from the minbar that the individual was kafir. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. One more time, please. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. When you look at the events of Karbala, brothers and sisters, don't just look at it as an incident that happened. Because nowadays, that's exactly what's happening. This was a political war that happened. Imam Hussein al-Islam, he lost this political war. They've turned this, the mainstream Muslims, they've turned this into a battle of politics. That's it. It was a battle of politics, and Abu Abdullah Hussein al-Islam, he lost. You have to remember that even the Sunnis, they say that Imam Hussein al-Islam is Shaheed. Shaheed. This word Shaheed, it has Islamic connotations to it. Meaning what? Meaning that you'll be a Shaheed if you have given your life for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're considered to be a martyr, a Shaheed, once you've given your life for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you give your life for something other than Allah, you're not given that title of Shaheed. You're not given that status of Shaheed. You've just been killed in the way of that thing that you gave your life for. So if Imam Hussein alayhi salam rose for just worldly benefits, why is it that he's been given that title of Shaheed? Because that title of Shaheed is only and only for those individuals that gave their life for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The fact that he has this title tells you what? It tells you that Imam Hussein alayhi salam did not rise for personal gain. Imam Hussein alayhi salam did not rise for personal causes or worldly causes. No, he rose for Islamic cause. And because he rose for Islamic cause, he's been given that title of Shaheed. He's been given that title of Shaheed. But mainstream Islam now, no, you know what? It was just two princes. They were fighting over government. It wasn't a fight over government. It was a fight over ideology. This fight over ideology is not just between Imam Hussein and Yazid Lantlali. You see that fight between ideology, Imam Hassan and Muawiyah. You see that fight of ideology, Amir al-Mu'mineen and Muawiyah. You see that ideology, the Holy Prophet and Abu Sufyan. They weren't fighting over just government. Abu Sufyan and the Holy Prophet, the almost 80, 82, 88 battles that they fought, it wasn't over just government. It wasn't over just political. No, it was over an ideology. If it was just over government, the first battle should not even have occurred. The Holy Prophet had left. He was in Medina now. Abu Sufyan's in Mecca. But they're coming from Mecca to Medina. What do they want to do? They want to erase an ideology. They want to erase Islam. They want to erase Islam now. If it was just political, they should have stayed in Mecca. But the fact that they're coming to Medina is telling you that no, this isn't political. This is a battle of ideology. All the battles that happened in the time of the Holy Prophet, it wasn't ideology. It wasn't just a battle of power. The battle of power happened when? When Abu Bakr came into power. The battle of power happened when? Umar was in power. The battle of powers happened when? When Usman was in power. The battles of power happened when? Muawiyah. This is where those battles of power happened. They didn't happen in the time of the Holy Prophet. They didn't happen in the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen. The battles that happened in their power was ideology. You might say, you know what, Syed? What about Imam Ali and Muawiyah? The Battle of Siffin. Alaykum salam wa rahmatullah. Yes, the Battle of Siffin. It happened between Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib and Muawiyah. But that was two individuals with two completely different ideologies. You had Amir al-Mu'mineen who wanted to rule Islamically the way the Holy Prophet ruled. You had Muawiyah who wanted to take out Islam and just have kingship. That's it. You had two completely different ideologies. What does Muawiyah say while he was ruling? You know what? I wanted this when the azan was happening. When the muazzin said the name of the Holy Prophet in azan. What does Muawiyah say? I don't like to hear this name in the azan. He was trying to get rid of that name, but he failed. He failed. When Imam Zain al-Abidin came to Sham, when the azan was happening, what does Imam Zain al-Abidin say to the muazzin when he was giving the azan? When he gave the testimony of Rasulullah, what does Imam Zain al-Abidin say? He says, can you wait a minute? Tell me, is that Rasul whose name you're taking, is that my Jad? Is that my grandfather? Or is that his? It tells you that this was ideology, not just kingship or worldly. This is what Imam Hussein alayhi salam sacrificed his life for Islam. This is what everyone needs to understand. When we say Ya Hussein, it's Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. One thing I want everyone to remember is that Lady Zainab sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she had a huge role in the protection of Islam. This jihad of Imam Hussein alayhi salam in Karbala, that is jihad al-asghar. That is jihad al-asghar. The jihad that Lady Zainab fought, that is jihad al-akbar. Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam, he saved the religion through Jihad al-Asghar. Lady Zainab, she made sure that the religion stays until the end of time through her Jihad al-Akbar. What's Jihad al-Asghar? The youngsters, what's Jihad al-Asghar? What's Jihad al-Akbar? Jihad al-Asghar, some of the companions at the time of the Holy Prophet, they come back from a battle. When they come back from a battle, the Holy Prophet, he says to them, congratulations, you've just come back from Jihad al-Asghar. Jihad al-Asghar. And they ask him, Ya Rasulullah, Jihad al-Asghar? Is there a bigger jihad? What's Jihad al-Akbar? And the Holy Prophet, he says, Jihad al-Akbar is the jihad against the soul. Jihad against the nafs. Why did I say that the jihad of Lady Zainab was Jihad al-Akbar? Why did I say that? Because she saw everything that happened in Karbala. Everything that happened in Karbala. But when she came to Kufa, when Ibn Ziyad asked her, how did you see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did with your family? What does she say? Ma ra'aytu illa jamila. I saw nothing but the beauty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I saw nothing but the beauty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These individuals, they were destined for shahadat. All they did was come to the place where they were supposed to be shaheed. After seeing everything that happened, look at the world that we live in. Look at the world that we live in. If a student, they study very hard, and at the end of the year, they fail their exams, what do? They start losing hope. They start losing hope. If a parent, they lose their child, what do they start doing? They start losing hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They start leaving the religion little by little. The more calamities that befall a person, the more they start questioning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they leave the religion. That's what the world that you and I live in. Look at Lady Zainab salawatullahi alayha. The more calamities, Ummul Masa'ib. She's been given that title, the mother of Masa'ib. The more calamities that befell her, the closer she became to religion. The closer she came to religion. The only way you get closer to the religion, the only way you get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is through that Jihad al-Akbar. And you see through her sermons that Imam Hussein alayhi salam is alive today because of those sermons. The nohas that everyone reads and keeps Imam Hussein alayhi salam alive. The marsiyah that gets recited, the majalis that happened. The first person to do those majalis was Lady Zainab. Where was the first place that it happened? In Sham itself. Yazid, he became majboor. He had to ask, what is it that you want? The first thing she says is, we want to do majalis for Abu Abdullah Hussein al-Islam. We want to do majalis. Look at the way that she was raised. Look at in Sham, what was happening in Sham? In Sham, the atmosphere against Amir al-Mu'mineen had come to such a point that when they heard that Amir al-Mu'mineen has been martyred in the masjid, people would say, what does Ali have to do with the masjid? What does Ali have to do with the masjid? That's how Muawiyah had trained the people in Sham. Those are the types of narrations that Muawiyah had spread in Sham. Where people in Sham, in Damascus, they're saying, what does Ali have to do with the masjid? The one who was born in the Kaaba, what does he have to do with the masjid? When they came to Sham, when the caravan came to Sham, there were people that didn't know who the Ahl al-Bayt were. They didn't know. Imam Zain al-Abidin is having to tell them, do you know who the Ahl al-Bayt are? Do you know Ayat al-Tathir? Yes, we do know Ayat al-Tathir. Do you know who it was revealed for? Yes, the family of the Prophet. Do you not know that we are that family? Why? Because the people in Sham would consider them to be rebels. The Ahlul Bayt are considered to be rebels against Islam. This was how Muawiyah was training the people of Sham. When you're ignorant of the religion, it doesn't matter what happens in the religion. It doesn't matter to you. When they came to Kufa, this is the Soyum of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam. This is the third night of Imam Hussein al-Islam Shahadat. Who buries Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam? Do you all know? This question, one of the people that stopped, a Waqifi, who stopped at Imam Raza al-Islam, when Imam Taqi al-Islam, he became Imam. They had doubts on the Imam's imamat. They said to him, Yabna Rasulullah, you claim to be Imam. He goes, yes, I am the Imam. He says that we've heard that an Imam, he's the one who does the burial, he's the one who does the ghusl, he's the one who does the kafan, he's the one who buries the Imam. He goes, yes, that's absolutely true. A Masoom buries a Masoom. And that Waqif, he goes, how did you bury him? How did you bury your father when you were in Medina and he was in Tus? How did you bury him? The ninth Imam, he looks at that individual, he goes, let me ask you a question. Was Imam Zain al-Abidin the Imam after Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam? He goes, yes, he was. How many days after the events of Karbala was Imam Hussein al-Islam buried? 3 days. Who buried him? Imam Zain al-Abidin. Where was Imam Zain al-Abidin when Imam Hussein was buried? He was in Kufa. How did he come from Kufa to Karbala to bury him? It was the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Imams, they can do mu'jizat. It was through the mu'jiza that he came from Kufa to Karbala to bury him. He goes, if that's the case, that he did a miracle and he came to Karbala to bury him, then why isn't it possible for me to do the same miracle and go to Tus and bury my father? Bury my father. Tonight's the third night, brothers and sisters. The narrations, what do they state? That it is midnight. Lady Zainab Salawat al-Laylaha, she's woken up now to pray Salat al-Layl. The 10th of Muharram, she never missed it. The 11th, when they were coming to Karbala, she never missed it. Now it's the 12th. She still hasn't missed it. When she gets up, she sees that Imam Zain al-Abidin, he's not there. When she sees that Imam Zain al-Abidin is not there, she turns towards Najaf and she says, Ya Abati Adrikni, oh Father dear, please help me. There was only one Sayyid al-Sajjad. My brother Hussein, he had told me to look after Sayyid al-Sajjad and he's not here. When she says this, the narrations, they say that Imam Zain al-Abidin, he comes through the gates of Kufa. When he comes through the gates of Kufa, Lady Zainab, she looks at him and she says to him, oh my nephew, where did you go? Sallallahu alayka ya Rasulallah. Sallallahu alayka ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. Sallallahu alayki ya Siddiqatu Fatima. Sallallahu alayka ya Hasan al-Mujtaba. Sallallahu alayka ya Gharib al-Ghuraba. Ya Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. Ya Hussein. Brothers, sisters, ladies, Zainab, she asked Imam Zain al-Abidin, Ya Sayyid al-Sajjad, where did you go? Imam Zain al-Abidin, he cries and he says to Lady Zainab, oh auntie dear, I went to bury my father, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam. When he says this, Lady Zainab, she looks at him and she says to him, oh my nephew, oh my son Sajjad, how did you bury my brother Hussein? Imam Zain al-Abidin, he starts to cry. Then he says to her, oh auntie dear, when I got to Karbala, I saw that in the distance there were a few women from the Banu Asad. They were crying over Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam's body. And they were saying, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. When I get closer, they start to leave. When they start to leave, I tell them, oh my sisters, oh my mothers, please do not leave. Please do not leave. I'm this individual's son. They ask me who I am, and I tell them that I am Ali, and I tell them that this is my father Hussein, and they say to me, Wallah, we know that this is Hussein. And I ask them, oh my sister, oh my mothers, how do you know that this is my father Hussein? They say to Imam Zain al-Abidin, oh Sayyid Sajjad, for 3 nights now we keep hearing the voice of a woman. She keeps saying, oh my son Hussein, oh my son Hussein. That's what Imam Zain, he said, how do you know? You know who a person is by their face. You know who a person is by their head. Then my father does not have his head. That's what these women, they say for 3 nights. We keep hearing a woman, she keeps saying, oh my son Hussein, oh my son Hussein. That's when Lady Zainab, she asked Imam Zain al-Abidin, Ya Sayyid Sajjad, how did you bury my brother Hussein? Imam Zain al-Abidin, he says to her, oh auntie dear, it was very difficult for me to bury my father. When I went into the qabr, I saw that there was no one to give the body to me. And when I come outside, there's no one to take the body into the qabr. Ya Sayyid Sajjad, what did you do? Oh auntie dear, I turned towards Najaf and I said, Ya Jaddi, Adrikni. I turned towards Najaf and I said, oh grandfather, please help me. When I said this, oh auntie dear, I see 2 hands, they rise out of the grave. When they rise out of the grave, Lady Zainab, she says, oh Sayyid Sajjad, were those the arms of my father Ali? That's when Imam Zain al-Abidin, he cries and he says, no auntie dear, those were the hands of my grandmother Fatima. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وَاللَّعْنَةُ اللَّهِ عَلَىٰ قَوْمِ الْكَافِرِينَ. Matam Hussein.
الشام 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 याद जब आ जाता है बाबा याद जब आ जाता है बाबा दिल मेरा फट जाता है बाबा